Screen Time salutations to all you internet dwellers out there, and welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, by Keelan. How you doing, man?
Oh man, I can't complain at all. It's Sunday.
It is Sunday indeed, absolutely, and we got Mike back in the house.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm hanging in there. You doing all right? You doing good this Sunday?
Can't complain, man. I cannot complain. And yeah, I think we're ready to have an interesting conversation about maybe, shall I say, an interesting movie. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about RRR on Netflix. If you have seen this movie, join us and listen to what we have to say. If you haven't, this is your sort of spoiler review since it did come out this year. Spoiler warning that we will be talking about key elements of the movie. So if you don't want to be spoiled by it, maybe turn back and then come visit us afterwards. If you don't mind being spoiled, or if you've seen it, join us and let us know what you think in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys out there. But yeah, let me just give a little bit of sort of background information on the movie, and then we'll get into first impressions with the gentleman here. So RRR is on Netflix. It was released. Let me see. It was released. I don't even know when. It won't tell me. Where is it? Keelan, do you know?
Yeah, I do. I was trying to unmute myself.
Okay.
March 25th.
Thank you. March 25th is when it was released. Awesome. And it was directed by S.S. Rajamouli, written by Vijayendra Prasad, and it stars, and I'm trying not to butcher the names here. So it stars N.T. Rama Rao Jr. and Ram Charan. Those are the two main characters, and there are also some supporting characters in Ajay Devgn and Alia Bhatt, as well as Olivia Morris and Shreya Saran. And yeah, I keep coming across this movie on Netflix. It always flashes in my homepage the scene of one of the characters being chased by a tiger, and of course, that was kind of what drew me into choosing this movie for tonight. But I'm not going to give away my first impressions. I'd love to hear from the gentlemen. So, Keelan, why don't you let us know what you thought of RRR?
Wow. Initially, I thought this is going to be a Bollywood film, and it was a Bollywood film. But I was interested in this from my initial introduction because it was kind of prosed like a superhero flick. And that's kind of where I'll go with my opening. This movie is a perfect example of why you don't really see foreign film superheroes. Like I remember maybe 10, 15 years ago now, there was this rendition of a Russian Avengers type flick, right? But for the most part, you don't really see that come out of foreign film industries. Now, that's not to say they don't exist, because I'm sure they do. Just like in every industry, everything mimics each other, right? But when you have great human beings or blessed human beings or deities or people who have just a general purpose, which most of these movies do, you can kind of add the extra magnificence to the elements around them and to them themselves, and you don't need the capes and tights. And to me, that's what this movie kind of reminds you of. Like a regular person can be a hero or can be a savior type.
Interesting note too. The two characters, Ram and Bheem, are based off of two actual revolutionaries in the early 1900s who fought against the British.
Correct, 1920s.
Yes, this movie is apparently a sort of reimagining of what would happen if these two characters actually met each other, because apparently they never met each other. So, all right. Well, Mike, first impressions. RRR. What do you think, man?
Thanks for the context. I was kind of wondering if there's I knew it had some bits of like historical context to it with the Indian Revolution, but I didn't know the full extent. But I really love this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Like foreign action films, or the ones that I've seen, tend to be over the top, and it's always a whole bunch of fun to watch. Like the slow mo, just sort of like the ridiculousness of it all. Like the normally you would call this like schlock in Western culture, but it's so much fun to watch, man. There's another Bollywood action movie that came out years ago where like this guy's like a robot, like a Terminator esque thing, but he could like mold his body, so he like molds himself into a bunch of different versions of himself that all come together to form a giant cobra. It's
Awesome.
the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but I was laughing. Man, I think at one point the guy like makes like a fighter jet and then launches himself as missiles
I love that. I
at
love
the bad guy. It's like ridiculous, but it's so much fun to watch. And like the first acts of this movie reminded me a lot of another foreign action movie I've seen because of the over the topness called The Cop, the Gangster, and the Devil. And so once I saw that it was like reaching that level of absurdity, I was like, I'm in. And then
Wait,
of course,
that's still a good film for the record.
yeah, it is. And like you still like you watch Bollywood movies for the dance, right? The dances are always amazing, and it doesn't fail here. All the dance routines are great. Even probably like the English party thing, probably I feel like tops some of like the dance numbers in like Moulin Rouge because it
Mhm.
has that sort of feel to it
Yeah.
as well, like this hyper real or surreal sort of thing. But yeah, no, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was tons of fun. 3 hours of fun, and then you got like a weird buddy cop movie thing happening there, like a romance, which is
Yes.
always just cool to see too. Yeah, lots of fun.
Sweet. Yeah. I think I share you guys' sentiments. Again, when I saw this on Netflix and a man running away from a tiger and narrowly missing it only for a wolf to smash into a tiger so he could get away. I was already set. I love this type of schlock. I think what's really great about it is that um, it reminds you that movies are supposed to be fun. And I think what we've done in American cinema is we valued groundedness, and in a lot of ways that works. I think that tells good stories in many ways, but I think we are remiss when we ignore things like this, because it tells a good story, but it's also ridiculous. And for a 3 hour movie, it is very well paced. I found myself feeling like I was getting pulled out a little bit, and then it just brought me right back in, which I was really surprised about because I was daunted by the 3 hours. If I was being honest, I was like, yeah, I don't know, like that's a big commitment. But I'm glad that it paid off. I really am. I think that there's a whole lot that's really just kind of cool. It's funny, like really funny and over the top, and some of the action sequences are really great. Some of the shots are really great. The slow-mos are just so enjoyable.
Have
Yeah.
have either of you ever seen Papillon, the original Papillon with
I don't think so.
Steve McQueen and then the guy that played Rain Man? I forgot. I forgot.
Dennis Hopper.
Not Dennis Hopper. That was the Blue Velvet guy.
Oh,
Yeah, I forget his name all the time too, and I feel bad. Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hopper. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah.
But that movie's really long too. I think it's like almost like 3 hours. But the pacing of it, like you kind of fall out of it. It's a movie about two people trying to escape from Devil's Island, pretty much, a French New Guinea prison in like the 1900s, based off a true story. But as you get pulled out, all of a sudden you like this twist happens, and then you're brought right back in. And I feel like with this movie, the same thing happens.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. And just to wrap up my first impressions, and then let's just jump right into the things that we want to talk about. I was, again, I was actually really surprised. I was great. I thought the music was fantastic. Again, the dancing, like Mike said, great. That whole sequence at the British party is just incredible. And so, yeah, let me stop blabbering. Let's just get into the stuff that we want to talk about, guys. Keelan,
Okay,
why don't you bring us to somewhere first, and then we can go.
I got overexcited. I apologize.
No, not at all. Well, before we do that, I wanted to state that this movie was originally scheduled for 2018. Ended up being pushed back until mid 2021. Put out at the beginning of this year. Beginning budget of 72 million, and ended up making about 160 million, and that's in US dollars. The film is released in India originally, so the currency is crore. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep butchering the word. I've never heard of it, but the Indian currency, the currency for the country of India. So with that being said, now I go to these notes over here, and I can bring us to a spot. Actually, I don't need the notes to go to a spot. This movie starts with the story, and let's just jump into what we felt about the story, top to bottom, not just the story initially, but you have the story, the fire, the water, and those are our 3 prelogues, basically.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
don't actually get the title sequence until about 40 minutes into this movie.
Dude, that was epic. When like the title sequence shows up, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this!" Like I feel like I was watching.
just now getting there.
I had a buddy. Whenever we watched Japanese anime, something surprising happened. He would be like, "Oh, oh!" Like so what I was doing.
Nani?
Oh, yeah. I was like, "Oh!" And then they show the RR. I'm like, "Oh!" That's where we've arrived. Like, awesome.
No, yeah, exactly. That's really where the beginning of this movie takes me. It's weird that the regular credits made me think it's gonna be like 30-40 minutes before we even start to understand what the real point is. And that's really what we got, and I enjoy it because of that. So we meet Molly. After we meet Molly and we see the circumstances in which she is removed from her home, we see Ram. We don't know him as Ram yet. At this moment, we just know him as fire dickhead officer guy.
Dude with the
like
dopest
RoboCop.
mustache in the world. Are you kidding me?
Hey, listen, porn stash definitely was the guy.
That was a mustache of pure will and determination. Yeah, I don't even know. I think that mustache could kill John Wick.
I think so. Honestly, I would be
kill John Wayne.
I'd be interested in that. I really love that they do these opening vignettes for both of the characters. So, you know, we get Rams as this riot is happening and the British are in their little embassy or fortress or whatever. And, you know, they're being pussies about it. So, you know, like one of the British soldiers is like one of the dudes throws a rock at the King George picture or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he wants that person arrested. And so Ram is like, all about it, man. Just jumps into a sea of people to go arrest that guy. That was one of the coolest fight scenes I've ever seen, too, to be honest, in a movie. Like that had been a very tough fight scene to like create.
I'm thinking that's the kind of fight scene that but it's not even just that one, actually. Every fight scene in this movie was greatly choreographed. Mm-hmm. Like the scene was great. And I don't mean just like the cinematography scene. I mean, the way it was all laid out, the thought process was clearly done front to back, top to bottom, left to right. Everything looked extremely safe and at the same time fun. But to your note on that particular scene, it wasn't until he was in that crowd and they had like that little dome-shaped moment
dog
where he's
pile.
covered by the dog pile, and it shows him in the dog pile. That's when I realized, like, oh, we're about to be getting some really great cinematic moments through this thing. Like that was just
that moment reminded me a little bit of the Neo moment in like the second Matrix when all the Agent Smiths are like dog piling on him and he's like building up that strength. Yeah, it's like no, you're right. You know, like the choreography is great. And I wonder if that's borrowed because they do so well at dance. Like the whole build up to that fight is great too, with the crowd pushing the fence, the soldiers all falling down in unison, all like this like dance type movement, but building towards a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's kind of cool that they take those fight they draw almost inspiration from musicals, where like musicals, when the emotion builds up too much, you have a song.
Mhm.
The emotion builds up too much, you have a fight,
Mm-hmm.
and then the choreography explains it. And it's
Right.
great. It's fun.
And I think that was another thing when you say the choreography explains it. In this movie, the choreography was fun, but the lyrics to all of the songs, the music literally told a whole nother story, another layer of the story
It was the
into the
narrator.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically the music was the narrator. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you didn't catch some of the songs, it was like, wait, what's going on?
And I love
At one
how
point, it was just Ram, Beam, Ram.
I love how those like songs carry the motif of this opposites, because that's really that's the weight of the music, is it has to carry the fire and the water. It's
Mhm.
like the spine to the visual cues that we're talking about, fire and water and all the motifs and the light motifs and stuff. And it does really great at that. I mean, even at the end where you have I'm just going to call it like was it, like the unforeseen winds of fate or something like that,
The
like that
grandmother moment.
motif of these two opposites coming together.
Mhm.
But even by the third thing, the second you hear that, you know that the characters are back in union and fighting for a single cause.
Mhm.
And the fact that that can be done through just music alone is great for the overall product of this movie.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think Rom is a total badass, and you get that from the get go, which
Oh
is
yeah.
great. I think you also get his motivation. He wants to he wants to move up, And
Oh
I
yeah.
like, the movie obviously takes some twists and turns with the character, but at this moment in time, we're thinking that he's just trying to be that sort of loyal soldier, and he wants to rise in the ranks and impress the sort of British class or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
And
what it
what's
looks
great
like.
is that it
Mhm.
does this in like 2 seconds,
Yes.
where you get all of it, where he's standing there and it's a lower shot. So like when the camera dips down and you look up at a character, it means that the character is great, right? You got to
Mhm.
look up towards them. So you look up towards Rom, and he's there with his badass mustache, cop mustache,
Yeah.
and then there's the British flag flying. So you immediately understand that he wants to rise up through the ranks of the British in
Mhm.
Mhm.
one shot.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think.
and the way that the story sort of explains his frustration too is right after that you get the award ceremony, and he
Right.
gets passed up, and then he's
Right.
like, you can see how pissed he is because you know
Yeah.
we don't know why he's so pissed, but then after subsequent information you realize, oh, that makes
Oh
a lot
yeah.
more sense. It's
Well, no,
deeper.
Well, no,
you think
we're at the
that
moment we
he's
know why he's
pissed that
pissed.
he doesn't get the rank up.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah.
and we saw him just hunt down old boy and get beat up by the mob.
And what makes it even better, like what adds it on the end, is the Captain India sequence where he's in there just hitting that punching bag until it
Mhm.
blows a hole in it.
Right.
Mhm.
No, I think I meant we as an audience, we don't know that his plan isn't just to be like a lackey for the
Oh, right.
British. It's that
Yeah,
he's there to
the double
sabotage.
cross narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
but
think
it but it's
for
still
the
fixed though, which is
Yeah,
great. Like
it does.
you think you
yeah.
know, but you
Mhm.
don't.
Right.
And I think for the moment, even without, if they never introduced that, they could have used that as an anchor to like, oh, this was his turning point. Like he was all for them, and then he realized they were no good.
Mhm.
And that's really where I thought they were going with that. Something I picked up from the fire and water clash and the side by side. This movie started in a good way. Started to feel like if Bane and Batman became friends.
Yeah. It's definitely a team up. I was not expecting the bromance element, to be honest. I really had no idea what to expect from this movie, but um
That wasn't it.
certainly did not like expect that. Did we just become best friends? Yep. And-
You wanna go do
Dude,
karate in the
I
garage?
was I was super worried with that first song, the first Unknown Winds of Fate, like the motif for the fire and water.
Mhm.
Because I was really, it's like, will blood be shed? It's like it foreshadows betrayal.
Right.
So I was like, if one of these characters kills the other character, then finds out the truth for it, Oh, I don't know if I'm in store for that. I don't know if
That'd be pretty
we're
heavy.
spending so much time with these two characters.
Right
I don't know if
there.
I want to see one kill the other.
Right.
I thought
I'm so
somebody was
glad
gonna
it
have to
didn't.
die.
I'm so glad it didn't go that way. I'm really glad it didn't.
Well, I
go
mean,
that
how
way.
many times did Ram die? Let's really start.
Rom died a few times, but so did Beam. Beam almost died too. So both of them took
I
their
think
licks.
Beam died
Yeah.
about 3 times less than Ram.
That's true. Rom was dead pretty
Ram
much
is
a
he
few
was
times.
immortal.
Yeah, he was. It was the mustache, man. Just he
Oh
gives
yeah.
him all of his powers.
I think it was funny that I didn't realize at a certain point after he had let the rest of his facial hair grow in so he could blend in.
Yeah, that was a quick cut.
Uh-huh.
I had to recognize him again a little
Mhm.
bit. Yeah.
He even looked like he was a smaller person.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Mhm.
lose a little bit of that, like the continuity with that. But I was
Mhm.
like, well, I think I know this is what's going on, so I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to put the fault on me. Like the movie makes you put the fault on yourself instead of the
Mhm.
movie.
Like I'm
Which
not
is
paying
Oh yeah,
attention.
yeah. There was a legit. I think that's basically right at that spot where you see Rom and he's gone quote undercover, and then
Mhm.
you see Beam, and like one moment he's doing something, and then he's working in a. It was very confusing for a minute because
Mhm.
he was the guy running away from a tiger and the wolf thing, and then all of a sudden he's a mechanic in a in a shop,
Painter, a
a
painter.
Yeah.
painter. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's
I
a,
think
it's a drawing cut. You're like,
Mhm.
right,
what are we
and I
doing?
think that's where the introductions kind of messed me up, well, or could kind of mess you up at first if you're not expecting the introduction. We like I said a minute ago, we got the story, and then you jump to fire, and it's like, wait, what happened with that? Then you jump from fire, and then you jump to water, and it's like, wait, are we going through? Are we about to form like Voltron? What's going on here?
Oh,
And
that would
then
have been
from that,
dope.
that would have been dope.
They
And
did.
then
They did.
they did form like
They
Voltron at
formed
the end.
like Voltron at the
You're right.
end.
Yeah, they
You're
did.
right. Factual.
It's
But
amazing.
then to really
Yeah.
just find out like they're both there for essentially the same thing, but like I said, Batman and Bane, um, you adapted to this. I was born into it. Um, when we go from the montages straight into the story, I think the intent is to give you something to think about, to give you something to be confused about while the story now has time like that, because now you're getting into that slow patch of every story that has to happen. And I think the
Yeah.
intent is to make you consider
It's
the
assumed that
epilogue.
there's been time that has passed, I
Uh-huh.
Well,
think. Yeah.
yeah, but it does this better in other scenes.
Mm.
So, for example, later on in the movie, when Rom gets captured, right? We cut to the English general who's the main villain, who does a great job. That actor,
He's
those
very
two,
good.
the actor and the wife, do a great job at being
Evil.
villains.
Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not so cartoonish where they're dumb. They're not.
No,
He's
Ah,
like
not a
okay.
dumb
depraved.
evil person. Yeah, more
Yeah.
depraved, vicious, kind of like the epitome of British imperialism during that time,
Mhm,
right?
Mhm.
Where everything that wasn't British was beneath them.
Mhm.
mhm.
But they, like, yeah, they do. I've lost the thread. I'm sorry.
No, you were just saying that they had a better
Oh yeah.
demonstration of
Okay.
passage of time.
Okay. Yeah. So Rom gets captured. The British general is there, and he goes, "Well, it's been months."
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's the first, or that's yeah, the very first words out of his mouth. So we know the passage of time. But earlier on in the movie, it does. Yeah, you're right. It does stumble in these weird, jarring cuts. But I don't have a lot of experience with Bollywood films,
Yeah.
so I don't know if this is like a typical cutting pattern that they do, where they're
I
okay
could
with like big big jumps in
That's a good
time,
question.
Yeah,
and the
I think it
audience
is.
knows it. You
I
know.
think that's probably pretty normal, especially if you think about you get the three preludes, and then it's like, all right, now the three preludes tell you who the characters are. All right, jump into the story. Now we're in
Right.
this story. Now like Rom, he doesn't look like Rom, but he's
Right.
just got his facial hair grown in a little bit. It's him, trust me.
Yeah, until it
Trust
goes.
me.
Yeah, until it goes around to like the point of betrayal, right? And then
Right.
he goes back to his mustache, and then he
Yes,
goes
yes. When
back
Yeah,
to
he's
the
turn back
older
into that
sort of
guy.
style. Yeah, yeah, that
I
is kind of
think
cool.
I felt like the story really took form when we get to Molly. right? And you find out about her being from that village. Like when the guy came to explain that she's from a village with a herd mentality and they have a protector, I think that's where the montages then made sense. And it was like, oh, one of them are the protector. Then we realized, like, oh wait, one of them is the cop. Oh, cat and mouse. Okay, that's what's about to go on. Then
It's
of
like The
course,
Departed for Bollywood,
oh
kind
wow.
of, a
You know
little
what?
bit.
If we're saying that, I love The Departed, and this was probably better.
I mean, like there's a lot of great things about this movie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna
And
lie.
that first sequence with Molly where she gets kidnapped and all that goes down is
Oh,
a
that was crazy.
hard thing to see. But it sets up so much great stuff because it sets up the miscommunication that carries on even with
The entire movie.
yeah, throughout the whole movie, but with Beam and his love interest, the English woman, how they can't
Just
really
Jenny.
talk. Just Jenny, yeah. They can't communicate with each other. Jenny? I'm thinking of Jenny. But they can't communicate with each other. But that gets set up in a very vicious way, and then you see the very like loving way, and it does great to set up the things that happen in the story and sort of those English and native Indian dichotomies.
Right. And yet she still ended up she ended up deciding to stay with him and still don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nice. And he's like Hercules, dude.
He's definitely Hercules.
I like that they both have very like different, distinct sort of powers almost. Like Beam is very much like the Herculean sort of archetype. He's got super strength for sure. Ram is more like, I don't know, maybe
Speed,
like
fire,
super agility.
precision.
Yeah.
Dude, I think his power is just will. Like he would be a Green Lantern. He would definitely be a Green Lantern because he just
I can see that.
It just gets the job done. Period.
Right. Well, and I like the comparison of the two. They have this theme, but the tiger and the dog, and you see that with Beam running away from the tiger and the wolf. Ram is sort of the dog because he's the lackey of the British Empire, where Beam represents the native tiger of India.
But then Ram is an interesting character because he projects his own character onto Beam. When he goes, Beam is a volcano. Like I was trying to get these weapons, but he was able to inspire everyone with just a song.
Right.
I feel like he is the volcano. He went into like dormant state. He went into the British, and he's just waiting to explode with these weapons.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
So
definitely.
They create these really deep, interesting characters where Ram sees in Beam himself. So that even like speaks to the characters being so close together. They become the same person for the betterment of India.
When you think of their introduction, they met literally by saving a child's life together.
I was going to say, they have their own meet cute.
Right. Yeah. So it's only fitting that everything they do, even when they drift apart, at some point the whole original goal was to come and save this child. So that's going to be a thing.
They both care about their people.
Yeah.
And then that builds up because they end up both working together to save Mali, and then they both work together to save India, which is, if they're the protectors and the guardians, you can make an argument that India is their child to protect and watch over, right?
Yeah.
But dude, that flag sequence when like Ron grabs that flag and he jumps down, I was like, let's go. What are you doing with that flag? They're swinging, he throws the flag, throws the child, and then he wraps himself up in the flag through the fire. I'm like, let's go. And they come together, I'm like, he's gonna live. I'm like, let's go.
That's the hardest bro moment.
It was so hype.
It was. It's like the arm in arm meme, where it's like
from like Rocky. Like
yeah.
It's so good.
But yeah, I love that moment where they meet each other, and then you get this really kind of long montage of them being best friends, just enjoying life together. And at some point, I thought to myself, "Doesn't he have a sister he has to save?"
At some point, I thought to myself, "So you gonna not realize your boy is the person who you walk around with a picture of?"
Meanwhile, Ram's wife is literally sitting in a village just waiting for him to come back.
But this movie does that a lot. Yeah. Like whenever these two characters have a very touching moment, the whole movie stops around them.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Like there's wars going on, people getting shot, and they have like some touching moment where they can spend time on it. And it's like, yeah, no, this is the filmmaking stuff. Like
Yeah.
like what you were talking about earlier with that groundedness.
Mhm.
I call it like the Jason Bourne effect. Because like spy movies were great with 007. We all love 007. And then Bourne comes out and we're like, oh, none of these movies are real. They're all shit, like super fantasy.
Mhm.
So I think we, in a weird way, suffer from this. I think it's okay. You know, maybe their superpowers that they have like time dilation powers, where when they come together, they stop time.
I don't even care. You don't need to explain it to me. I just saw Beam as Hercules and Rama as like Hawkeye almost, you know, like
Yeah.
but yeah, but that's the thing is like I love that you don't have to even. The movie does a great job, and this is where the surrealist stuff goes into my head. It's like the movie does a great job, and where you don't ever feel like, okay, you just feel like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, you could totally hold the tiger back with your bare hands, or climb on your buddy's shoulders and start fighting somebody.
You don't believe we could do that?
I do now. I've seen it now.
You got to work on leg day.
I just want to run around and reload something, like somebody on the shoulder, reload their gun, so they can lean back and then shoot somebody that they're not even looking at on a castle.
So awesome.
The early 1900 rifles.
Yeah. Man, there's so many moments, but I guess we should get to the British party, because that seems like there's a few really big set piece moments in this movie that we could probably hover around in our conversation.
I know before that moment, right leading into that, when Ram is helping Beam get married, or actor get married, which is funny, like his name's Actor. They use Murray hair products, which I was like, wow. That's
why were you wow? Oh, because it was a black thing.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, it's an old hair product company that's been around for 100 years. So.
I know now.
Yeah.
I know. Listen, the running joke, which I'm sure is still true to this day, is if you buy one tin of Murray's hair promenade, whatever the hell it's called, that's enough for a lifetime.
Murray's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
man, they were all about pomade back in the day.
I'm learning all sorts of stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell pomade did for your hair back then, but yeah.
Probably just kept it down, you know.
Yeah, that's how they got that slick. Got it.
Yeah.
Dude, he was such a good friend though to Beam, to get him like,
bro.
Ultimate wingman. Told him say yes, tell him when to say no.
He incorporated the drummer. He made sure to slip in the right drummer so that he
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that whole scene was just amazing. With the backdrop of the palace and just and this is where I think you're right. It gets very Baz Luhrmann. Or you get like elements of Moulin Rouge, also Great Gatsby. Just this big sort of lavish set piece where everybody's dancing and happy. And I love that, you have these like uptight white dudes that eventually have to succumb to the dancing because it's just too fun, like
as an American, there's a great part that happens there where he's like, the British has like tango.
Yes.
Flamingo. And I'm like, well, in the early 1900s, like Charleston was huge.
Right.
In America, like everybody was, where's the Charles? Oh wait, he's British. Yeah.
Well, he did the swing, and then the black guy rolled his eye.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I
saw that. He was like, bro, come on.
He's like, you ain't got no swing. So you ain't
got no swing. Well, all of those dances are cool, but none of them stood up to the Desi Notch.
The Desi Notch is dope, man.
Hey, man, that was hype. I almost ready to start a mosh pit in my house when I was, holding.
My hip started hurting watching that.
Right. Yeah, it just makes you want to move. It's very fun. And those two together, I don't know, they just have such great chemistry. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that they're like best friends. So I think they do a really good job at like portraying that chemistry that they have with each other. And this is where you get to solidify it. And I think that's what's great about these types of movies, that you can solidify it in sort of like a dance piece like this. Because this is sort of the culmination of the beginning of their friendship. They get out and they do this crazy dance, and it's like, oh man, you know, best friends. And of course, Rama taking another taking another knee for his boy there. You know, he loses the dance competition so he can impress the girl.
Yep. And it's great because like everybody's rooting for Ram except for the one girl who's rooting for Bheem.
Right.
And so he's like, and it's the important girl that's rooting for Bheem. So he's like, all right, I'll take the fall. It's a good friend move. It's great.
A solid guy.
That's exactly what you do. Yeah.
I'm just glad it's not like American movies, because that's typically the guy in American movies that ends up with the girl.
Oh, right. Yes.
You know, yes. But what's great is that it builds all the way up too. So it builds the thing that it builds up towards is Bheem's. So Bheem has a biblical arc from my Western point of view, right? He's very closely tied to Jesus and the martyrdom. They even explain like we can't kill him in the city; we have to take him out of the city and hang him. Otherwise, he's going to be a martyr. Most obviously, this is shown when he's brought out to get flogged, and they show him and they showed barbed wire almost in the sun, almost bring up this weird, at least from a Western Christian point of view, of the crown of thorns.
Crown of thorns. Yeah.
And then he gets flogged. He gets punished. He even has a whip full of thorns at it. You could call it that wrap around his body, his skin. Yeah.
That was crazy.
So all of that builds up to Bheem realizing what he's done to his friend, and he doesn't realize it. And it's great because it's a 3-hour movie, but it all builds up still in like distinctly different acts with different tones, but it still all builds up towards the same end at that third act, which I think works fantastically.
Mm-hmm.
Like he realized like he betrayed his or he left his best friend to die, so he has to save him.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff.
Well, and realizing that the bigger goal would have gotten his goal done no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was like, I was so tribal. I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's some really great stuff playing off there. You know, like there's a lot of depth to the characters too. Okay, so what's the next big sort of thing after the? I'm starting to get a little bit blurry in this midsection.
So after the dance off, then you have he's in the halls because Miss Jenny wants to take him back for coffee, but he hears Molly singing.
Oh, that's right.
And that's his first time seeing Molly, knowing for sure like she's there. Like he had already been told she was there, but it's his first time seeing her there. And then not too long after that, we see Jakku getting tortured, and it's time to go and save Molly. But Ram gets bitten by the snake.
Oh, that's right.
And that's what really throws everything out of whack. This is what really, again, in American movies, this is when everything would go in disarray and downhill, and you got to kill your so-called friend or set them up or what have you.
Yeah, you know, and I think there's something really important to sort of point out there. It's the optimism and sort of the victoriousness of the element. And I think that there's something, I think in American cinema, and not to say that like this is a pretty commercial Bollywood movie, so it's not like this is a deep track or anything. It's on Netflix. But I think like there is a level of like just in the same way where like we need things to be grounded and very real, and other cultures are much more okay and comfortable with flights of fancy and sort of surrealism.
We get enough entertainment in our news.
Yeah. I just also think that, you know, like we do ourselves a little bit of disservice when we you know, when we don't value that type of stuff as much. But you know, like I appreciate it a lot, and I think that it's nice to have optimism in storytelling. And like you're saying, Keelan, like this would be the moment when everything starts to fall apart. You get this descent. And trust me, a lot of things go bad, but you never lose hope that things could get better, you know,
Right.
Well, like,
which I like.
yeah, it doesn't, like, everything does fall apart. Like, the holy chord ends up making Ram realize, and Beam also telling him who he is, but both ends up making him realize that Beam is the guy he's hunting down, pretty
Right.
much, right? And then he has this moment of complete conflict and rage where he starts breaking down plaster walls and punching
No,
through
bro,
them,
punching
going,
concrete walls, bro.
yeah, just going nuts. And then he
Are you saying he's
But-
not capable?
no, it's just when I like reflect on it. It's like that. The flight of fancy that kind of makes me giggle a little bit because it's so on the nose as far as the emotion goes. That it's Western, like we're so grounded, we're like we just kind of giggle. We're like, okay, we get it. Keep moving on with the movie. The guy could punch one hole in the wall and be angry, and I would understand it. But it goes into like a 2-minute thing where he's crying.
Multiple punches at the wall.
Yes, it is.
You'll take a frown and a swing of the arm, huh?
Yeah,
I
but
think it's indulgent in a way that we just don't get a lot of in our movie.
but it's fun. But like that moment of hope is held on when Ram won't look at Beam in the eyes,
Yeah.
and he's like kind of boom. So even though everything's falling apart, it's still progressing the story to an uplifting moment.
It is definitely, yeah. And so Beam has decided that he needs to. He's tired of waiting so long, which fair enough. I think it's been quite some time since he's been able to save his sister. And you only find out that it's his sister when they meet each other at the palace, unless she's using it colloquially, as in like brother. Somebody
it's
in
the
whole
village.
Yeah, the whole village are brothers and sisters.
Okay, so maybe then just village mate.
But it's really sold that they feel like family. So it's sold that this whole village is one tight knit, strong family, and then this guy is the shepherd, the protector of the
the chosen one.
The chosen one, yeah. But yeah, so he has to storm the palace in order to get Mally back. And I thought this was another pretty awesome scene.
Yeah, I mean, we find out that they weren't killing or hurting the animals; they were caging and caging them for this purpose to use them as a
That was a pretty amazing debut.
And the weapon,
holding two torches, jumping out with a whole bunch of animals.
You know what made me laugh though is that like as this fight sequence goes on, you just see people running back and forth. But you see none of the CGI animals are just people running left and right.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
Yeah, that was the one thing where I was like, I'm starting to be pulled out of the experience a little bit.
They said
what's going on. You could have had like a few town villagers running there. You've already set up that like
villagers.
Like this is like border. Yeah, you can set up like the villagers, the city folk, or whoever don't like being repressed. So an attack on one point would bring other people in. You should build that, but I thought it pulled me out a little bit just to see random people running left and right. And animals or anything happening in the back.
Well, and this goes down to what you were talking about before, where the movie kind of just stands still when Ram and Bheem are together, because this is when that happens, like very starkly. It's like as soon as they make contact with each other, everybody else just leaves them alone, and they've become very much just background actors where they're just running around aimlessly.
It's God love.
That's what I was hoping was like these animals get let out, everybody leaves because of the animals. Like they just leave the scene. Like you don't actually have them running around in the background. Like the motion is nice, but it messed with my brain when I'm like, why is that? Oh, they're supposed to. Where are the animals? Wouldn't you be running away from an animal, or would you be running in a general direction? That's the one thing I would have changed. I would have just emptied out that whole courtyard because of the animals and just let them fight. And then if you want to bring things in, then have like the soldiers start to fight back against the animals and come back in or something.
To be fair, the CGI is about Jumanji level, and I'm talking about the original Jumanji level for
Oh,
CGI.
I have no problem with the bad CGI. It's fine because
It's appropriate. It totally is.
well, it just makes me feel secure that no animals were actually
Oh
hurt.
You know, actually
course,
harm.
of course.
Yeah, you know, because I mean, I don't know what other countries' cultures are like. They might have actually hurt something, but if I know it's for not that great CGI, then it's fine.
And this is the first time we get this. We get the water and fire motif like more pronounced. The fight between water and fire, where you have the broken fountain versus the fireworks, which I thought was just so cool. Those two shots were amazing, where you get Beam with the fountain and then Ram with the fireworks. That was really sweet.
Yeah, no, those were gorgeous shots and kind of fun that they were able to use them. Like kind of smart. Like it's a party, of course. There's going to be fireworks.
Right.
So it's a smart use of those fireworks, and there's a big fountain. Fountain has water pipes. It's a smart use of the party to add highlight and contrast to that. You know, the whole imagery of fire and water.
Right. And this is kind of the midpoint of the movie where they get their face off with each other. And at some point they break apart again, and then Beam goes and runs towards the palace, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't stop him just then. He stops him a little bit later, right?
Oh, hold on. What do you think about Ram's chariot of fire? Oh, that was so dope.
Cool. Super cool.
I'm done.
Like, is he Ghost Rider? What is this?
Yes, absolutely. And I love that he lets the horses off of it, unhitches it, and then steps off, and it just starts flying.
Precision. And
so good.
And if he hadn't done that, just think to yourself, how else would he have gotten all of that done?
Absolutely, man. You got to do it the most flamboyant way you can. I mean, literally sent a flaming chariot at Beam.
Yeah. I mean, he would have had to jack it up, take the wheel off, set it on fire, find a ramp, roll it down the
Nah, just set it on fire and ride it in.
Hey, dude knows how to make an entrance, all right?
Yes, he does.
That's for sure.
Yes, he does. And so again, this is sort of the middle way point where I kind of thought that I didn't know if it was going to go this way, but I was pretty surprised that Beam actually does get captured. And of course, Ram is the one to capture him.
I would have like that during that little thing. Like they have a little graphic overlay at this point in the movie when he gets caught.
Right.
And I guess this was supposed to serve like a intermission point, like a point where you can stop and think or something. But I would have really liked an intermission song with like you don't have to do graphics and all this motion stuff and animation.
But that would have been kind of cool.
But kind of. But they have like a little bit of a song, or like they bring up the leitmotif of the two. But it would have been great to like have an intermission song at this point, and then let your audience leave and
kind of like how they had in the end for the right before the credits.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool. I would have liked that. Maybe even have it be a little bit more meta. With maybe because I think in the end the director was a part of it, and it looked like maybe some of the other movie makers were a part of the song and stuff. Yeah, so it would have been kind of cool to see like maybe some of the people working on the movie in the intermission at the dance, doing the dance too. That would have been, that would have been pretty sweet.
You can even pose the whole dancing as like you just keep them holding on to each other, right? And then you bring out the crew and other characters in either below, where like the governor came out pointing the gun, and then you have a dance number around this like the scene of like him holding like that and looking up at him like that. And you have the dance around that. And I think
that was a pretty great shot too. The top down of the governor coming into the scene and then pointing the gun, and he's got that trail of fur, behind him, which is kind of cool.
And he was only holding it with one hand too. He had that big old like rifle. It's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna shoot her.
Yeah. One arming a single or like a bolt action rifle.
It was I'm pretty sure those were Lee Enfields. Lee Enfields were World War I and World War II British standard rifles. Pretty accurate. So but I don't think you would want to fire that with one hand. That would at least hurt
Like-
a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, big boy. He got that thing.
He got that thing. Well, and this is where the movie I almost had a point where I thought I was going to get taken out of it, and this is where the movie kind of snapped me back into it. And it's this after this conflict where Beam is basically captured, we get a flashback of Rama and
Ram.
his character, and I
Which
was actually
unexpected.
and like really good,
Mhm.
really good. And it sheds so much light on Ram as a character that I didn't even like. It just sucked me right back into the story. And so, like, after an hour and a half, I'm kind of feeling a little itchy, and I'm like, all right. I did take a minute, just like I took a few minutes. I paused it. I was like, all right, I'm going to take a minute. But then it jumps right into this sort of flashback of how Ram was raised as a child, and I thought that was just an incredible little vignette as well.
And it is great too because it introduces it as like he gets his promotion for capturing him. He gets his that looked like a BAR to me. Actually, I don't know what machine gun I guess you call it, but yeah, it looked like a Barrett assault rifle. Barrett action. I forget what BAR, but Barrett something or not Barrett. Anyways, yeah, no, it's not as a BAR, but it's like a World War II American gun, but it looked like that. But yeah, he's aiming it up and he's shooting at a target and he's hitting it bullseye every time. And he remembers the first time he hit a bullseye. Right. And then that's how we explore Ram's childhood and his the unveiling of his motive, of his actual motive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you guys have anything that you want to talk, like, comment on in that vignette? I just thought it was great. I thought his father was a great character. The tension of the whole being surrounded by the British Army was really well done. I mean, him seeing his mom being shot, basically his whole family his little brother being shot, and still having to be the person that handles was a testament enough of what type of person Ram is. He's the guy that gets it, like Mike said. He's the guy that gets it done.
Yeah, and it's cool to see because his symbol is the fire. So it's cool to see where that fire starts or how it gets built. Like very Batman-y, watching his parents die sort of thing. But still, it's cool to see where that first ember kind of kicks up or the first fire sparks.
Keelan, you're muted, but that's probably why we couldn't hear you.
Terrible. It's probably, or not, it's probably, sorry. It reminds me kind of that Killmonger type of a character that's willing to do what it takes, but you have to be strong enough to do what other people aren't willing to do. Like everybody else isn't willing. Like we saw that Beam was also willing to take, a couple of hits to the face, a whip or two, some flogging. But he wasn't willing to become British to save his people. And Ram is or was.
Right.
That's probably the biggest contrast between the two characters. But overall, that's what that scene showed me. It gave me that understanding of how did he become that strong to where your goal doesn't matter to him because your goal can't stop him from his goal.
Yeah, and I think it contextualizes it a little bit too in the prior scenes in the prior hour and a half of this movie. Ram is constantly called a traitor by all of the people that he interacts with that are just normal folk. Like he's British, he's Indian police. He's a traitor to the Indian people, and I think that that's really interesting, especially because of the task that he's taking on. So he's taking on this really thankless task of trying to get the British or the Indian people armed by infiltrating the British government, basically, while his entire people think that he's some sort of traitor. And I think that gets put on real full display when Beam is flogged because he has to be the one to flog him.
Hey, man, spy work is thankless work.
Super. It is big time, and you're often gonna look like the bad guy.
They only made that one song for him, Secret Asian Band. Only reward they get.
Right. And speaking of that, that is one of the, I think, another tentpole scene in this movie, is the flogging scene between Ram and Beam, and I thought that was incredible as well.
Dude, I was not. I was like, I drink a lot on Friday night. And Saturday I was pretty hungover. So today I was like, I'm just gonna chill, get ready for work. Then I saw that scene and I was like, I need a glass of whiskey. Because it was just so
heavy.
like, yeah, it's so heavy, but with his song making it so light, somehow makes it heavier.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. And the fact that man never put his knee to that floor is pretty incredible.
Never bent no knee, let me tell you.
Right.
Your knee to no man. But yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, because it's a very simple thing. Like, we don't even get to the confessing crimes. It's just, is he going to bend his knee or not? Is he going to kneel?
Right. Right. And you have, the constant amping up of the situation. And of course, Ram having to be the one to dole out this punishment. And you can see it's bothering him, but he still has to maintain the very sort of cop facade where he's like, just bow, just say you're sorry, stop. Like, that's the friend trying to tell his friend, like, please don't keep me make me do this to you. Like, it's a pretty tense scene, I would say. Yeah.
And then the Bheem song, just kind of like his life is a gift to Mother Earth, don't cry, don't. This, it's like a weird, almost rite of passage song. In a lot of cultures, just not. When you do your rite of passage, you don't show pain. And that gets carried into this song of like, don't weep, don't shed a tear, don't do anything. Because you're going through something unjust and you're a child of the world. You're stronger than what any unjust pain can be thrown at you. And that's like that in itself is a heavy song presented in a light way. But it's I don't know, it's kind of cool. Again, I trail off on these thoughts because they're not that well formed yet because I just saw it. But that whole song, again, I don't know if it was. You can argue that the emotion went past it, but I would say the pain, like the pain is what leads into the song because he almost passes out before he sings it. I think he does pass out at the end.
He gives him the strength, and I love the reaction of the people around him. You can start to see their faces change. Like the moment, like right before he's about to collapse, they're all just getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And the moment his body hits that floor, they just go apeshit. Which is pretty powerful. And again, Ram makes notice of this, that Bheem's song is what did something that he's been spending 15 years trying to do.
Right. It showed him that the people are the only weapon they need.
Oh, and what's also nice in the scene is you see from looking at the British side of things that they're not all evil. Because you have Bheem's love interest there. But she finds this sort of action like just not deplorable, like just disgusting. That you would do this to anybody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that she was able to sort of maintain as a positive character because, you need to have a little bit of that in order to make the villains that much more villainous.
And what's nice too is like this foreshadows the general wife's death. Which is interesting. It sets it up because she throws in the thing with all the thorns on it. And the way that she dies is wrapped up in barbed wire.
Right. Dripping blood, like she said she wanted.
Yeah, she wanted. Yeah. So it's like this great, like this movie does this multiple times. It has setups that you really don't, like you start to think, yeah, these are probably setups as you keep building on, but you don't really realize it. But the payoff is so good that it works on a visual level, a symbolic level. You don't know, it works on both levels, the visual level and the symbolic level. And it's cool because it happens like 2 hours later.
Right.
I think that was the cool thing about even that final action montage with like when they get together and they're killing and the
Voltron montage or the one after that.
The last one where they end up
their god selves.
As their god selves.
The impossible dream sequence.
When they have Yeah, they have telepathic communication,
Right.
and he just calls his name and winks, and he knows to let the bike go, and he's gonna shoot an arrow and explode the bike or catch the bike on fire, and that's gonna fly in through the second floor window and blow up all of the munitions.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, I like that. That was a little detail of him just being, since he was infiltrated, he knew where the munitions were. I like that because I was wondering for a split second, like, okay, that's convenient. But I was like, oh, no, because he's already been in the palace. He would know where the munitions are, anyways.
Yeah, one of what's great too is like everything kind of gets explained or is known through this movie. Like if you're like, we're like, how that motorcycle flying? It's like, oh yeah, no, he would know where it's at. But when Beam is breaking Ram out of solitary, I'm like they just straight cut to the prison. I'm like, well, how did Beam figure out where the prison is? And then in like two cuts and a voice and an ADR voiceover, it all gets explained. It's like, oh, he went
Right.
back to his British contact.
Right.
She showed him the blueprints and set him up.
Yes.
And while you're breaking into the prison, which is I feel like a brilliant editing style versus the Western editing style, where you would have seen him go to her.
Right.
They would have had a talk. There would have been something about their lost love or something like that. And then he would have attacked.
Right. It would have been a MacGuffin to a MacGuffin to a MacGuffin, and then
Yeah.
to your resolution. Instead
But
of
I
being
thought,
like, oh, this is how that happened. Don't worry too much about it. Let's get back to it.
yeah, I thought it was really brilliant what they did. We cut to the main action. We have a few inserts that explain, like 2 or 3 insert shots that explain everything. And then we're just right back in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to the end or the breaking out of ROM, because I definitely want to talk about it, I do want to just mention one more aspect to this, and one of my favorite scenes, which is ROM helping Beam escape. And basically, dude, a beat up ROM stopping 5 dudes from chasing after Beam. Like, that was such a great fight sequence. And it was so good because you could tell the choreographer was really thinking about how an injured person would fight. And it was very clear that, and yes, an injured ROM, he was using his entire body to hold those people back. And I just really, really love that scene.
Yeah. No, that stuff is great. And also, too, what I love from it is it shows that the English general has a superpower as well.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, when he
So
gets
now-
launched from the car.
Yeah, he
I love
just like give me the sniper. But it sets up this thing of like that there's these rules to the world because it's only Beam, Ram, and now the English general. And throughout the story, it's explained that these 3 people are special within their communities.
They've all hit their final form.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like they've all changed and all that stuff. So it's cool to see that that the powers are reserved to them, and then you still have the stock humans and the stock soldiers on every side doing their thing. So it's like hero building, right? You have to build your heroes up and villains to show that they're a cut above the rest. And he has like is just the keen eye for observation, which is important for military jobs. So it makes sense. Where he sees like, yeah, that palm tree is bending weirdly compared to all the other ones that I've ever seen in this country.
Right.
Looks down at the root. Somebody messed with this. And he yells at his driver to go faster, and then he even steps on the pedal because he tells him.
Right.
I think all that whole sequence is done so well from beginning to end. With him, like with Molly and Beam running away, and you're like him using his whole body, kind of like a tarantula, to shift his weight to get the thing done.
Yeah, yeah. At one point, he locks up like 3 guys within his arms and just like lays down on the other 2 and just using his whole body weight.
Like throws his weight with their weight to catch them.
Yeah, I thought that was just such a really cool way of demonstrating an injured person fighting. Because, like we've seen so many movies where the hero gets brutally beaten and they still can move effortlessly. I like and I appreciate that Ram just got like really messed up, but he's still gonna fight to make sure that Beam gets away.
You want to know something funny too? Going back to like the symbology of all this, he gets stabbed in the back by a tree.
Right.
who is the child of the forest in this movie?
Beam.
Beam. So,
Mhm.
and who betrayed Beam? So it
Rom.
makes sense that the forest betrays Rom,
Right.
and Rom has to do everything that he can to get back into the forest and Beam's good graces, so that Beam can
Mhm.
leave him later.
The
All that
country
works
literally
brilliant.
almost kills him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all that works brilliantly, and I
Yeah,
love it.
I do too.
That was nice. I didn't even catch that, Mike. That was a good. Wow, that was a good catch.
Mm.
Yeah, like what I love about this movie is that all of the elemental motifs, and it might be just because of the Indian culture, like they pay more attention kind of to this mystical stuff, but the everything is used so well that it's a really well layered and a well threaded story, because you don't even need to know about that symbology to understand the scene, but if you have that little
A little bit
just
of information.
information, yeah, or like training on how to look at film, or fucking however you want to put it, right? I don't know. I don't want to sound like an asshole, so I'm trying to avoid. But you pick up more from the story, so I guarantee you that it gives you more repeat viewings because of this. Because on the second time, then the child of the forest. The forest stabbed him. The leaf even falls on Beam's face just to show you that there's some weird supernatural stuff going on.
Right.
But like all that is so good because it's all for the story. Everything is for the story.
Right.
You know, I agree. Everything was very well done. All the accents of, the fire elements, the wind or nature elements. They say water, but nature more so, in my opinion. Um,
I don't.
what
I'm
I
trying to connect why like. I guess because he flowed through every situation. Like whatever
yeah,
came up to him, he kind of just was able to manage it.
right. I was trying to figure out at first how or why Sita was there, but after Ram's last letter to her, I think she was coming to be his like yeah, they said, "Oh,
He's
come
gonna be
collect his
to
body."
collect his body. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they
Yeah.
told her. But I think she thought she was coming to be his like saving grace. Like he'll see
She
me and find the will
She
to
was
fight
gonna
on.
try. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was gonna try, I'm sure. I really like that they brought her into the thing because then it does the thing where I love that the movie is aware enough to understand that the confuscation between characters is always stupid and it's a contrite like sort of conflict.
Hmm.
So I like that she's there almost exclusively to act as the salve to bond or to bridge the
Bring
gap
them together.
between Ram
You
and
know,
Beam.
Tell
so
everybody
you
that he had to kill his own daddy.
Yeah.
you you know what would have happened if you submitted that scene to like some stuffy Hollywood writers?
Oh no.
Too many coincidences. Why
Yeah.
is so he's staying there in town because it's the
I,
last town that they haven't searched? Why
I
haven't the
will
British searched?
I will
Like,
see your argument and respond with this movie probably does better than most of the Hollywood movies that have come out this year.
oh, it does.
So I mean,
Because
maybe they need to take some notes.
you have to relax a little bit. It's like
Yes.
serendipity happens. Coincidence. And this is
Yeah.
what makes a movie worth watching. This is why you
Right.
watch because
It's a
the
fantasy.
the probabilistically like most unprobable thing will happen, and that's why you watch
Yeah.
movies. 'Cause it's
Otherwise, we're just watching some dude sitting somewhere and
yeah.
doing nothing.
Could you imagine if like Beam dies, they find out Rom was the traitor, they kill him, and the movie ends.
Oh,
Yes.
imagine if he never meets Sita and he's still thinking that his boy is the bad guy.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. I do love that she's in that just to be like, no, he was a good guy, and
Right.
he saved his friend. I just love that his beams or is it Beam? I just
Being
lost his name.
Beam or
being
Rom.
Beam.
or
Okay.
yeah.
I just love his response to all of that. You see the tears in his eyes start to well up, and like he starts to get very serious because he realizes like Rom didn't betray him and that they are actually the best friends. Like
Yeah, anyone could have.
man, that's really where everything takes its climax. It's like when Beam's like, nah, I'm going to go get him. I'm bringing Rom to you. You shouldn't have to come here for Rom. I'm going to bring Rom to you.
Right.
which is just great. Just
And
gotta love the bromance aspect of it.
Oh
no,
yeah.
yeah, that's the whole movie. Well,
Yeah.
I do like that when they get into their fire and water united type of a stance. You have Rama, the descendant of the Rangu lineage, and that's like a whole 2-minute song. And then you have Bema, the lion of the Kamaran clan, and that's a whole 2-minute song. And it was just a whole thing to me where it's like, yo, this is dope. Like they both get their own little theme moments, then they come together again, form like Voltron. Consistency.
That scene is so amazing. I just love the idea of somebody sitting on somebody else's shoulders and them both fighting.
Mhm.
You know what's
Which,
cool too? It's like
yeah.
that even is a payoff. That gets set up
Yes.
earlier when he's on the shoulders and he's doing like squats.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
before they're in God mode.
Yeah.
He healed his legs. Like, how do you heal somebody's entire legs? He could not walk. He was destroyed. He went and made him some salve, made it into a putty, put that putty across his legs, and next thing you know, he was walking.
Hey man, you don't know about rural medicine, all right? We're city folk. We have
When
no idea about rural medicine.
I know that the medicines over there can do some things and heal some things, and I am also aware that it probably would not work with my genetic makeup at this point, just because I am from over here. And what do you mean the sun naturally does that to my skin? I need my spiffies, my SPF.
Oh man, so with like that whole prison breakout, I was like, this is like the Great Escape. It was so strange to see him like knock on the ground, and then it cuts back to the other guy, and he like knocks on the wall, but he keeps knocking on the same wall, and
Right,
through
and it
like,
doesn't change.
Yeah, but through echolocation somehow it changes. Like he crawls up to the wrong thing, and then he hears it again. It's like,
I mean,
oh, go back.
it's all because that's how it had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I even let that slide. I mean, it's like that's completely fine. Like you can rip off the door with your bare hands.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're both strong enough to do whatever they want to. I'm sure they could beat the ground and hear each other.
No.
I love their powers are they can do whatever it takes to keep the story moving.
That's right.
That's really all that it is. It's just like they can do whatever it takes just to keep that story continuing. So if there's a giant metal grate in your way, tear it right out.
Move it. Get your strength up.
Yeah.
And like this almost like reminds me of how like ancient humans would tell stories though.
Mhm.
Right? Like, man, did you see Broder over there? How he took down the saber tooth? He jumped on it, picked it up from its back, and then threw it off the cliff.
Yeah. Ripped its tooth out and stabbed it in the heart.
Something, right? Yeah. But it's sort of like this, or it's like borderline ever unbelievable, but for the story it works, so you just let it go. I doubt that would, but it's fine. Just keep going. It's a good story.
It plays with the concept of like legend, right? All legends are some level of fantasy and exaggeration, which is a lot of fun. Again, I think you guys were just talking about the Voltron scene.
Yeah, so. The whole Great Escape sequence and the Voltron sequence.
What a great shot. I love that. I love it too because Bheem is he's much more of the Earth, like, because I saw them kind of like Avatar, the Last Airbender. If you guys have seen that, I saw Bheem much more like an Earthbender. He was very, stout and sort of had that Tarzan-esque nature strength to him. And then I saw Ram as sort of Firebender, very nimble and athletic. And fiery and driven, that type of personality. So it was great to see that Bheem is the legs of the Voltron, and obviously Ram is the shooting arms.
Yeah,
shooting arms.
And then we get to the whole healing, all of like the rural medicine that works.
Yes,
that is better than the English medicine,
of course,
because that's also kind of cool and interesting. Where it points out like science versus mysticism. Like science has its own medicines, but mysticism has had all of its medicines for a very long time.
I was gonna say it's had much longer to fail and succeed.
Yeah, all you need is I think it was a Rama statue, is it not? I don't know.
That's a
I'm not
good
sure
question.
which deity it was, but it
Well,
was
the
definitely
song,
a hunter deity.
the song talks about the bow and arrow coming from Shiva, I believe.
Shiva. Okay, yeah, that
But I
makes more
can't.
sense
I'm really. I haven't turned my eye to that study only because I just haven't turned my eye to that study. Would just say that.
for sure.
But yeah, no. But in the song, I think it's Shiva.
Okay, yeah. So he embodies the Shiva, and I guess you can. I don't know what god Beam sort of embodies.
The lion of the
I
Kamaran.
guess the spirit of nature, probably the spirit
Or
of the country. Yeah,
the opposite of Shiva. You can
Shiva.
argue
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Whatever. If the bow, because he carries that bow and arrow and likes it on fire. So whatever the opposite, I feel like, because the song talks a lot about how they're opposite. So that's the only thing I think of.
Yeah.
Mm.
But a great climax to the whole story, taking out the evil governor,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Take out the special
Putting the
forces.
English
taking
bullet
out
into
the
his
special
heart.
forces with a bow and arrow is pretty sweet.
I thought
Ve-
it was kind of cool that they still kind of paid a weird respect to those special forces because they were able to sneak up on him. They
right.
were able to sneak up on Beam when he was like drinking water or something.
Mhm.
But you see them, and in the first time you see them, like it took me a few frames to realize they were there, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, that's actually
Oh
a
yeah,
well done
yeah.
shot." It's
They
like,
had him surrounded. I mean,
yeah,
if it wasn't for the godlike archery, then yeah, it would have been another story.
And
That's
the
for sure.
infinite query of arrows.
Yeah, you
yeah.
have an infinite quiver for sure.
I was thinking about that too, but I was like, let that go. It's fine. We
Who
did that
cares?
with weapons all the time. Nobody
He's literally walking
reloads.
around like a god. So
Yeah, and yeah, no, it was great because that marksmanship is set up too.
Mhm.
Again, with the flashbacks and all that, so it sets up the revolution, sets up his marksmanship skills, and then it sets up his god form with the bow and arrow. Where he no longer even needs a gun; he
Right.
just needs one shot, one kill, or one. Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
Perfect aiming. Doesn't matter what he shoot.
That's
Yeah.
right. Always got the perfect aim. And yeah, so what else is there? I mean, basically that's the big resolution is that the governor is killed.
Yeah.
Um,
Governor's dead and
This
everybody's together. Everybody made it back home safe.
they get all the guns.
that's right.
Yeah.
Again,
I
Rob
love
returns to his village,
I
all like
love
And,
that.
looking
I
like
love that.
Ryu from Street
and we
Fighter
learned
4
that
or
Molly's
something. It's like,
and we learned that Molly's mother is
oh,
in debt.
yeah. You know,
Yes, yes. I love a Rom coming back and you see that skeptical villager looking at him like, oh, damn, bruh. Dude actually came back. Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the things
Okay,
that
no.
this movie lasts so long. They do so well, but the way they end everything is so quick.
Very
There's
quick.
there's not a
Yeah.
lot of like time. We go all
Yeah.
the way. We go really fast. We made it back. Everybody's like, everything's good. End song credits. Get out of here.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resolution tidy. Everything's good. Let's get out of here. Yeah. I mean, because honestly, if they kept up the momentum, they probably could have done another hour of wrapping up of,
Yeah.
like everything normalizing. And then I could see it where, they reunite at the end, very end, for one
What I would
last
have
thing.
what I would have loved to see is like, yeah, they like you make this a 4 hour movie. It's like becomes like Kurosawa's Seven Samurai or something. And in that last hour, you have the wooden rifles replaced by the real rifles,
Mm,
and then you show both Beam and Rom training the soldiers to get ready for war.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I
I think
think you can.
that's probably a good.
So you think there's a part 2 coming?
I hope not. I think it's good as it is.
I wouldn't. I
They
wouldn't
might.
mind seeing a part 2 from an outsider point of view to see like a fantastical Indian Revolution film. I think
Mhm.
that would be cool to see.
Yeah, that might be
But
pretty cool.
on the movie merits, it's fine in here. It should end here. Actually, you don't need more.
Yeah, agreed.
Granted.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else that we sort of missed that you wanted to bring up before we get to
There's-
our?
The sun never
verdict?
sets on the English Empire.
All right, but
And
it
the blood
definitely gets
spilled.
blood on it.
I love that. Like, yeah, the blood spilled required for that to happen. Like,
Mm,
yeah, there's so many messages in this movie that takes place in the pure visual language, which film is supposed to do. that it's fantastic because it doesn't degrade your audience's intelligence. Like, for example, you take that same shot and you drop it into a Marvel film. Drop into a Marvel film. There would have been some explanation.
It would have been hokey.
About the bloodshed of the English Empire and the requirement for the sun or something. There would have been some line about it instead of it just happening. And it's the audience's responsibility to understand.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I got spoiled this weekend. I watched this movie today, and last night we watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, did you like it? You loved it?
It's the best movie I've ever seen.
I told you.
The best movie I have ever seen in my entire life.
I love that movie.
Yeah. If I could give it an 11, it would be an 11. I mean, yeah.
No.
Well, Keelan, you got to watch it because we're definitely going to review it in the future because that movie is so damn good.
But when we review it, you have to find a picture of a rock. Each one of us.
I'm down. Absolutely. We'll be rocks. I'm so down.
He's like, I don't know what the hell y'all talking about.
I'm just assuming there's a rock universe.
Yeah. You'd be right to assume that. But yeah, I mean, like if you're a fan of what they tried to do with Doctor Strange, I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once is
the best version I heard.
It makes Doctor Strange look like it should never have existed. Okay. Like it shouldn't.
Yeah, I know, right? Poor Sam Raimi.
I know.
Going back to RRR though,
yes.
There is one thing that we haven't talked about. And it's this the value of a bullet.
Right. That's a continued motif.
Yeah, throughout it. And I love that the value ends up being freedom. So like the English soldiers have, or the general, the main villain has this speech of like, what do you like every time someone's about to shoot an Indian person, he's like, what do you think the value of that bullet is? It was made by an Englishman at full pay. Then it went on in a fucking English galley, it traveled the 7 seas, went to blah blah blah. And by the time it's got into your gun, it's £1 sterling. And that's worth more than the Indian's life or something. And rebuttal to that is like this bullet earns its value when it goes into the Englishman's heart. The value of this bullet is freedom. And I think that's great within the fire arc, right? Because the water arc is that the value of a song is worth more than the value of a bullet. But the value of a bullet being freedom, I think, is such a cool idea that sticks into anybody's mind that has ever rebelled against the British anywhere around the world during the time of imperialism. And I just think that motif or in that theme is so good that it had to be brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This is a pretty radical movie if you think about it. It's very anti-establishment, which I appreciate. I think that it's an interesting perspective to get because the Hollywood perspective would have been stale and boring, and I like that this is a perspective from actual like it feels like a genuine voice of the people sort of thing, and you're surrounding it with sort of cultural folk heroes. Which makes it feel, I don't know, not more grounded, but more genuine. I guess more genuine.
And what's great is like the British actors and actresses, they all had to be evil, didn't pull any punches, and that was like really nice because probably at the time they didn't pull any punches. But you make that movie in America, they're going to start to become the villains become relatable. They're not that bad. Everything's sort of like. Yeah. So it's really good.
The Disneyfication of villains. Yeah,
it's really good to see these are the evil folks, the actors and actresses who might have felt bad afterwards, saying like sorry to the other actors, but they played their roles great to play up that evilness.
I don't apologize to nobody. I'm going to cash my check.
Yeah, you got it. You're doing it. You're doing a job. They did their job well, definitely. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we should give our final verdicts on this. Does anybody want to offer themselves up as a first go?
I'll offer myself up as tribute. I volunteer as tribute to
very good, sir.
Hunger Games. Absolutely love this film. There's tons of layers, tons of depth. We could easily go on, and I'm sure we forgot some parts that we loved. I apologize. Rewards multiple viewings. Songs on it are great. Some are very catchy. Even some of the songs I wouldn't mind just throwing on headphones and listening to. The editing sequences are done, or all the editing's done fantastically. Sometimes a little jarring, but that could be because I come from a more Western editing style, I suppose I can call it. And yeah, some of the shots, the cinematography is great, especially in the beginning with some of the establishing shots. Like the first shot, borderline reminds me of Avatar, not the Airbender, the Blue Cax one.
Mhm.
It reminds me of that because it's like a forest with smog, or like just fog. I don't know if that's just because Avatar did that so well that now everything reminds me of that, or that was a good thing. But there's like establishing shots that start out small, then like swing out into a big left up banking turn. That's really cool. All around a great job. My score on this is like a 9.5, a 9.8 out of 10. Some of the things that one of the things that bothered me, like in the very beginning, you have like all the fight choreo with the fire prologue. You have the fight choreography going on great, but the guy that's running runs away from the gate, but then ends up being really close to the gate once he's captured, which was kind of confusing for me. And then the background stuff happening during the attempted Molly breakout. I'm gonna call her Molly or Mally breakout, because I didn't see any like animals attacking people. I just felt like people were running left and right. So that was a little bit, but it says outside of that, it's as close to a 10 as you can get for a film without being a 10. And I'm being hyper judgmental. Like it pulled me in, but it didn't pull me in all the way where like I didn't care about everything else. I still ended up paying attention to some stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Keelan, do you want me to go or do you want to go next?
I was trying to ask Michael a question, and then you said that I realized
You were
I
on mute.
again. Yep.
Ask him a question.
Oh God. Damn
I
it.
didn't do it. All right.
No,
It
no,
wasn't
no.
me.
It's not you. I
The
felt like
glove
it
don't
was
fit my hand, man. I wasn't there.
the question was supposed to come like right in the midst of what you were saying, and it would have been way. But I was like trying to remember it and click. Screw it.
No, I'm sorry.
It has something to do with. Never mind. Never mind. I'm bet you I'm gonna remember it. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Let me get a text message at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there you go.
Question.
All right. Well, while Keelan thinks about it, I'll give you my verdict then. I was
Right. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. I realized that. Go ahead.
It's all good. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that I was a little bit daunted by the 3-hour time run for this, but I think it's paced very well for 3 hours. I didn't find myself dragging too much. I needed the intermission, but I took like 5 minutes and that was fine. There are so many great vignettes. I keep saying that word, but they do really feel like small contained stories that add up to a bigger picture. So maybe they're more modular. I enjoyed all of it. I think the music was great. The dancing was great. The acting was great. The two guys are just so good together. I just genuinely felt their relationship. I thought that they were best friends. It just felt like they were best friends. So really, really convincing in that respect as well. The action scenes were great. I love the surrealist absurdism, over the top. Yes, I will suspend my disbelief, but that's because this movie is that good. And I think that that's important because if a movie is good and you like the story and the characters, you forgive so much about things that you might nitpick if you didn't enjoy the story. So I think it does this movie does a whole lot great. If there's anything I have to gripe about, I'm not really sure that I have a whole lot to gripe about, to be honest. I do think that the ending was a little bit tidied up in order to just kind of end it. But I'm feeling a solid 9 on this one. I think that it's great. It's a great movie. Go watch it if you guys haven't seen it. You won't be upset unless you're unless you want to only watch grounded movies. If you're very serious, then you might not like this movie. But
You know what? If you're really serious, go watch this movie because you need it.
there
If
you
you
go.
can't
If
There
you're
you
really
go.
serious, then probably don't watch
for a
movies.
second, go enjoy something a little bit fantastical. You'll be okay. You'll
Right,
survive.
right. Have some whimsy in your life.
Yeah,
That's
Jesus Christ.
Unfortunately, guys, I don't think those kind of people watch movies. Just
No, they do. They're just very critical about
they watch murder mysteries. Never mind, I'm gonna stop there.
procedurals.
Hey, they have those on Discovery.
I know.
Yeah, I've watched too many. My thoughts on this film. I don't know where I could judge this in a bad way. Like, if I'm being totally honest, there's so much likability in this movie that I really started just like, all right, I'm gonna get excited when there's something I don't like or something that's boring or off-putting. So that is pretty much the necessary as far as sales pitch for this to end it all. It all goes right together, like we said. We've all said it through this entire thing. The music on point, the dancing. Actually, we only really talked about the dancing at the beginning, but for choreography's sake, because choreography also is dancing, not just fighting. The choreography was well through the entire thing. My only issue is I expected Jenny to have a little more of a. Actually, I expected both women characters to have more um involvement, but that was before I found out that this is about two historic figures that actually existed and just didn't come into contact with one another.
It's also not a Western movie.
As well. That as well.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, I found myself dancing. I found myself humming along to lyrics or a language of a song that I have no clue what they're saying. I too am going to give this a 9, and I'm giving it a 9 mostly because it's that great. I really don't have anything negatives to say about this, in my opinion. I don't have anything too technical to say about this either. So I think a solid 9. Go watch this. Put it in your watch list if you don't have 3 hours to put to the side. Watch it a little bit at a time. Get a watch party. I don't know what people do nowadays, but shoot, if anybody rent out a theater and play this, I'm coming.
All right, so how would you watch this? Would you watch it with like an hour and a half then you take like a intermission, like whatever intermission, then another hour and a half? Or would you watch it like for an hour, intermission, hour, intermission, hour?
I personally think the best way is say lunch, right? Lunch is right, like say 11:30, 12. You come out at lunch, you watch however much you watch at lunch, like during your eating. Then you go do something else. Then you watch about an hour. Then you take a small break and then you watch an hour. Because I don't think everybody can sit through the 3-hour thing. I know plenty of people who haven't seen Avengers Endgame to this moment just because of the timeline.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, so like you like the 2 intermission sort of thing.
I think the one is fine in my opinion, but I could see if you wanted to break it up by hour, you could probably do that too. Yeah. I think this movie has natural cutoff points that allow you to take a moment if you want, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, and not even just in the intermission. There were a few points where I feel like you could have just paused it and then given yourself some time and then came back to it without having to be like, oh, where was I? So yeah, I think you could take it in chunks if you wanted to, for sure.
Yeah. But
so I think
for me, that's a 9.
9. All right. Well, yeah, I think we're in agreement that this is in the 9 to 9.5 range. I think Mike gave it a 9.8. So if we just round that to a 10, I think it brings it to around a 9.3 if we average it out, which is great. This movie is great, you guys. If you haven't seen it, just go watch it. It's on Netflix. You can go watch it. If you have seen it, you know what we're talking about, and that's probably why you're watching us right now. So,
and if you hate subtitles, then take it in. I feel like somebody should watch this movie even if they hate subtitles.
Yeah,
if you don't like subtitles, go learn Hindi.
No, just take it in like 10-minute chunks, man. Do the best you
Mhm.
can with the subtitles so that you can build. Subtitles are like a muscle. Got to build them up.
Yeah.
So if you can, 10-minute chunks, and then you'll be able to build out much more if you enjoy the movie.
I mean, this movie does so well visually, portraying the story. I don't even think you have to read the subtitles to understand the story. I
Ooh,
mean,
that
like,
would-
Not the whole thing for sure.
That would be fun. Actually, I might rewatch it with 0 subtitles and
yeah,
try to
and see if
pick
you
up
can
some.
still glean the story. I mean, you might even find some other parts of things because, yeah, sometimes when you are reading subtitles, it takes your eyes off of the immediacy of the scene. But yeah, I didn't have any problems with it. I found myself kind of just glancing at the subtitles to see like around what they were saying, but I was really just paying attention to the actors and the acting and stuff. So didn't hurt my movie experience at all. Yeah. All right. Well, you guys good? We good?
Oh yeah.
We wrapped it up.
So 28 out of 30, man. I think we might have to change the scale.
What is that?
We might have to just raise the scale, just have bigger numbers out here or something.
Well, it's a
Sorry.
9. It's a 9.3 out of
criteria.
10.
Right.
Start
higher
rating
criteria.
movies out of 100.
Yeah.
Man.
But then
All
we'd
right,
just be
never
at a
mind.
93 out of 100.
Yeah, my
Take
same thing going there.
Just
Yeah.
take out the red pen.
Yeah.
Oh my god, things are wrong.
Did he check all the boxes?
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for sticking around with us and listening to our review of RRR on Netflix. What did you guys think about it? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you. I believe Dijon was here in the chat for a moment, and he said, quote, "Shit was flight." I agree. True that, my friend. Thanks, Dijon. We appreciate you as always. We miss you, and we hope that you can come on for an episode at some time soon. And thank you all for listening. We really appreciate all of you out there. Thank you so much. It means the world to us. If you could give us a thumbs up and a subscription to our page on YouTube at Screen Time Continuum. Sorry, guys, my mouth is getting real tired now. Yeah, so thank you. We're here every Saturday Saturday? We're not even here on Saturdays. We're here every Wednesday and Sunday. I'm just melting down now at 8:30 p.m. So be sure to check us out on Facebook and on YouTube at Screen Time Continuum. We also have podcasts that we do separately. And let's see, where do we start? Monday is an off day. So Tuesday is If Numbers Could Talk. And that is on at 8 p.m. with your boy Keelan. Go check him out on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Spotify at If Numbers Could Talk. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Wednesday, Sundays here at Screen Time Continuum, 8:30 p.m. You already know. Thursdays and Tuesdays are Dijon the Mustard and his Twitch channel called Strawberries and Coffee. Go check him out. He does video game streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 p.m. He also has a YouTube page where you can check out all of his archive videos. So be sure to support him as well at Strawberries and Coffee. Mike and I do a podcast on Friday called Exofathom, and that's on at 8 p.m. You can go check us out on Exofathom on Facebook, YouTube, Verbal, Rumble, Odyssey, and other places. I got one more for you guys on Saturday morning between 10 a.m. and noon. You got This Married Moment with Keelan and Bobby, and that is on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify as well. This Married Moment, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to noon. All right, I think I did it, guys. Thank you so much. Until next time, for Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
I am Keelan.
Story first, everything else later.
That's right.
Amen.
Says headphones.
Good night.
I feel like when you finish the intro,
Bro, my mouth went to mush. I mean, like literally, it just stopped working.